Have you ever been so unbelievably angry with someone that just being civil feels like you're losing? Well, today, we are going to break down a really powerful strategy for handling those exact situations. It's a way to set boundaries with real strength and grace, and some people call it distant politeness. Let's get into how it actually works.
So let's kick things off with a question that probably goes against every single instinct you have. Why on earth should you smile and say good morning to someone, a coworker, maybe a family member, who has genuinely, deeply hurt you? It just feels wrong, doesn't it? Kind of like you're just letting them off the hook.
But here is the big twist. It's the absolute opposite of weakness. See, that small, simple act of politeness isn't about forgiving them or pretending nothing happened. No, it's a strategic move. It is a quiet, powerful declaration that you are in total control of your own emotions and that whatever they did, it no longer has the power to control you. So here's our game plan. First, we'll talk about the kind of power you get when you move past anger. Then we'll unpack a classic idea called the porcupine dilemma. After that, we'll get super practical with something called the armor of formality. And we'll wrap it all up by exploring what some might call the best revenge. Okay, first things first, we need to totally reframe how we think about anger. When you're furious with someone, you are still emotionally attached to them. Hate is a bond just like love. It drains your energy and lets them live completely rent-free in your head. But polite distance? That severs the connection. It lets you take back all that mental real estate for yourself, all without having to start an all-out war. I want you to think about it like this. Politeness, that's your armor. It deflects all the negativity and stops them from ever accusing you of being aggressive. And the distance? Well, that's your fortress. It's that safe space you build around yourself where their drama and their influence just can't reach you anymore. It protects your peace.
Now, to really get this idea of balance, we need to look at this brilliant concept from the philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer. It's called the porcupine dilemma. And honestly, it's the perfect metaphor for the challenge we face in pretty much all of our relationships.
So just picture this. It's a freezing cold winter day, and you've got this group of porcupines, and they're desperate to stay warm, right? So their natural instinct is to do what we all do, huddle up close and share body heat.
But here's the catch. As they get closer to get that warmth they so desperately need, their sharp quills start to poke each other. The very thing that's bringing them comfort is now also causing them pain. And that sounds a lot like human relationships, doesn't it? Intimacy is essential, but it can also hurt.
So to get away from the pricking, they pull apart. But what happens the second they do? The biting cold comes right back. And now they're left with that freezing loneliness they were trying to escape. So they're just stuck, bouncing back and forth between two different kinds of pain.
And that, right there, is the heart of the porcupine's dilemma. It's this constant dance we all do. How do we get close enough to people to feel connected and warm without getting so close that we end up hurting each other?
So what's the answer? Well, Schopenhauer's solution is actually pretty simple, but it's also incredibly profound. The goal isn't to pick an extreme, not painful closeness, not freezing isolation. The real solution is to find a gentle distance. That sweet spot where we can feel the warmth of other people without getting stabbed by their quills.
Okay, so that's the big idea, the philosophy behind it all. But now let's get down to brass tacks. How do you actually create this gentle distance in your real life with real people? This technique? This is what we call wearing the armor of formality.
The strategy is actually pretty straightforward. On the one hand, you do the polite things. You say hello, you hold the door, you keep things civil and professional. But on the other hand, you stop doing other things. You stop asking, how was your weekend? You stop sharing personal details about your life. You avoid those long, deep conversations. What you're really doing is closing the door to intimacy while keeping the door to basic civility just slightly cracked open.
Think of it as your cold peace strategy. Now, this is not the silent treatment. That's just another form of attack. This is about minimizing contact. You're cutting off their emotional access, which means they can't push your buttons anymore. You're protecting your personal info so you're not handing them fresh ammunition to use against you later. You are single-handedly shifting the relationship from personal to purely formal.
Now, to really pull this off, you need a certain kind of mindset, a real inner strength. And to build that, we can take this from just being a tactic to a much deeper philosophy. And for that, we can look to the wisdom of the ancient Stoics. These guys were the absolute masters of inner peace.
The Stoics believed that your actions should always be a reflection of your own character, of your own values, not just a knee-jerk reaction to someone else's bad behavior. Think about it. If you respond to rudeness with more rudeness, you haven't won anything. You just let them drag you right down to their level, and you've thrown away your own principles in the process. And that brings us to one of the most powerful lines in all of philosophy, from the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. He said, "The best revenge is to be unlike the one who performed the injury." This isn't about getting even. It's about rising so far above it that they can't touch you. The real win is proving that their bad behavior has zero power to change who you are.
So let's boil this whole thing down to its core. You're not polite for them, you're polite for yourself to protect your own integrity, your own character. And you don't create distance to punish them. You create distance for yourself to protect your own tranquility, your own peace of mind.
So I'll just leave you with this final thought. When we get into conflicts, we're so often focused on winning the fight. But what if the real victory, the truest, deepest kind of victory, is having the wisdom and the strength not to start that war in the first place?